Not for long, two diesels approached.
Got you this time, Stepney. You'll make very fine scrap indeed. Buffer 'em, Bert.
The diesels took him to the large smelter shed.
Bye-bye, Stepney.
The twins were so cross they refused to speak to each other for the rest of the day. Where Arry and Bert worked, they liked to play tricks on steam engines. Percy didn't want to fall for their tricks again. But before he knew it, little green piggy in the middle, Arry teased. He was determined not to be tricked by Arry and Bert. "Hello, James," oozed Arry. "Come to learn a thing or two from those who know?" "Just get my freight cars ready and stay out of my way," huffed James importantly. "Yes, sir," Bert chimed greasily. James cheerfully backed up to his freight cars. He was certain he had fooled Arry and Bert, but he was wrong. "Little red piggy in the middle," chortled Arry. "Just like Percy," jeered Bert.
"I'm afraid the freight cars are in a mess," said Mavis. But Ben just grinned. Just then, the scrap diesels arrived.
Hello, are you happy to be here?
No! One day, Percy took some troublesome trucks to the smelter's yard. He whistled hello to Arry and Bert.
Call that a whistle?
Mocked Bert.
Just listen to this. Diesels can do everything better than steamies.
They sneered. "My whistle's as good as your horns," puffed Percy crossly. "Just you wait and see." Later, Percy went back to the quarry. He rolled up behind Arry and Bert, took an extra big puff, and blew as loudly as he could. Arry and Bert were surprised. "I told you my whistle is as good as your silly old horns," laughed Percy. Soon, all the other diesels had broken down. Arry, Bert, for Arry, and for Bert. And at the quarry, Arry and Bert were lurking nearby. The two diesels saw the chance to scare a couple of steamies. Boomed. It sounded spooky. What? They didn't know Arry and Bert had been bumping the flatbed's buffers. The two naughty diesels were having great fun. Arry and Bert thought Emily was the ghost too, and they raced away. Thomas was right behind them. Arry, Bert, Thomas, and Emily raced towards Tidmouth's sheds. Suddenly, he saw Thomas, Arry, and Bert racing into the yards. They stopped just in time. But they did feel foolish. "It was us, sir," Bert mumbled. "Yes, sir," said Arry and Bert, and they rumbled away. Percy arrived at Brendam Docks just as Cranky unloaded his special delivery. But then, Arry and Bert arrived.
Stinky steamies in the way again, mumbled Arry. Why do we have to work near them? Grumbled Bert.
They didn't want to work near the diesels either. The diesels were oily, and they were very different than the steamies. Arry and Bert were already there.
We've got a really important job to do,
boasted Bert.
More important than any steamy's job, added Arry.
But then he had an idea. a very naughty idea. Harvey cleared the tracks, but Arry and Bert didn't talk to him.
Stinky Steamy's made us late.
Arry grumbled. And the steam engines weren't talking to the diesels. They were all cross. So the next time Thomas saw Arry, he gave him a biff. And when Arry saw James, he gave him a bump. Soon the diesels and the steamies, the engines were in a terrible mess. Everyone needed a good washdown, and no work had been done. Then Arry, then Bert. The coaling plant was very busy. The plant manager was surprised, but Thomas was missing. The diesel engines didn't want to wait for Thomas. Trust the steamy to be late, grumbled Arry.
This whole mess is the Steamy's fault,
Grouched Bert. This made the diesels cross. Maybe we should teach the steamies a lesson, said Arry. Thomas, he blew his whistle. And all of the engines went quiet. All of the engines agreed. It had shining windows, gleaming. The engines were very proud and very excited. There was still one more job to do. Though no one was hurt. Very cross. They had put up with stinky steam engines all day. Now Thomas had ruined everything. Where's that scaredy steamy? Grumbled Arry.
puffed away after he messed things up, muttered Bert.
Arry and Bert couldn't believe what they were seeing.
I never thought I'd see the day,
said Bert. Thomas and Diesel 10 working together? Well, grind my gears, said Arry. So all of the engines joined in. And the steamies forgot how dirty the diesels were. Suddenly, there was a familiar sound. It was Harold the helicopter, and it brought Sir Topham Hatt. They all knew that steamies and diesels are different, but they both like to pull freight cars and coaches, and they both love to be really useful. So happy they blew their whistles and blasted their air horns. At the yards, Arry and Bert were with Neville, the new engine.
Nearly there,
said Arry cheekily.
Nearly there,
said Bert naughtily. Watch where you're going, clumsy wheels, Arry and Bert laughed. It's not our fault if you're a silly steamy, oiled Bert. And they laughed even harder.
For everything familiar, there's always something new.
Next, James found Percy in the quarry. Percy was struggling to pull the quarry cars. Brendam Docks is a busy, bustling place. He was shunting freight cars with Diesel, Arry, and Bert. And the diesel engines didn't like working with Thomas. And Thomas is the most stinky steamy ever. Diesel, Arry, and Bert laughed and laughed. Thomas, I need you to go to the dairy. But then, Thomas saw Arry waiting in a siding. Next, Thomas saw Bert. So this time he turned right. Suddenly, Thomas saw Arry rumbling towards him. But he didn't see Bert pulling up behind him. Thomas bumped into Bert and splattered down all over Thomas, Bert, and Arry. Now we're really stinky, moaned Arry. The most stinky engines ever, groaned Bert. Arry and Bert rushed straight to the washdown. Thomas wanted to go to the washdown too. Just then, Arry and Bert arrived at the docks. They were shiny, clean, and fresh from the washdown. Oh, no, groaned Arry, Diesel, and Bert.
All the Diesels met in the sidings. They couldn't believe such wonderful...
Then there was trouble. Arry and Bert were enjoying a rest at the engine sheds, but Thomas and Diesel couldn't see them. With a crash and a bang, Thomas and Diesel smashed Arry and Bert right through the back of the engine sheds. Bust my buffers.
Uh-oh. Come on. Let's have one more race.
No, Diesel, I have an important job to do. Thomas puffed over to Henry. Arry and Bert were soon back on the rails. I should have done my job instead of trying to be the fastest. It was a repair yard. Gordon saw Oliver and Toad. They were surprised to see Gordon so far from the express track. Are you lost?
Come to learn a thing or two from those who know.